Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. So today's case, we are covering a mom who would post a lot on social media and claimed that she was like the most amazing mom in the world.
Boys! Peanut! What?
You know the type, the kind of person that screams, "My life is perfect, my life is amazing, look at me and all of my fancy things."
What's up, y'all? We're out here swimming, me and the kids.
Every photo that she would post on social media was carefully choreographed. The children, she would just use as props, as accessories in her photos. However, behind the scenes, this mom, a woman named Tiffany Lucas, did not have the perfect life at all. She was truly awful to those around her. She did not put her kids first, which she claimed to do on social media. She was selfish, arrogant, she neglected her children. Until later on, things just started to fall apart in Tiffany's life and she had a complete breakdown. And then she did something unthinkable.
I know I look crazy, but I'm not crazy. I love my children. I love my boys so much. I wouldn't hurt them.
And this case ends in the worst possible way imaginable. This case is so heartbreaking, so needless, and that is what we are going to talk about today, so let's jump in. And I just want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, and that is Love and Pies. And if you haven't heard me talk about Love and Pies before, which I'm sure you have because I have talked about them so much, but Love and Pies is just the coziest game you could ever imagine. You play as single mom Amelia Green, who has recently inherited her mom's burnt down cafe, and you need to renovate it and restore it to its glory. But her mom has also recently gone missing. So there is this big mystery to solve. There are so many juicy secrets to uncover, and you just follow along with the storyline like it's your own Netflix drama. And I know a lot of you already play this game because you tell me in the comments. I mean, I am truly obsessed with this game. If you have ever wanted your own bakery, you need to download and play Love and Pies. But not just that, the game is also constantly updating. It is always packed full of special events. They have their movie premiere season pass on right now, which I have recently been playing, which is just full of Hollywood magic. And then from tomorrow, Love and Pies are about to get started with their special St. Patrick's Day event. And I love St. Patrick's Day. A lot of my husband's family is actually Irish, so I definitely feel like I have a close connection. And I cannot wait for this event from Love and Pies, because in the event, while exploring an old shed, one of the characters, Angus, stumbles across a giant golden harp, and he is inspired to do something special with it. And you can follow along with this amazing storyline in the game, and you will also be able to collect some amazing St. Patrick's Day decorations during this event as well, which is definitely one of my favorite elements of Love and Pies. I just love collecting things. So go and check out Love and Pies right now and download the game for free by using my link. And everyone that downloads the game through my link and plays to day 3, you will receive an amazing free gift via your in-game inbox, which will consist of 200 energy and 50 gems. And the more you play this game, the more you realize how important those gems are. And using my link rather than going to the App Store really does help out this channel, because it lets Love and Pies know that you came from this video, and you can start playing the St. Patrick's Day event tomorrow, which I am so looking forward to. So thank you again to Love and Pies for sponsoring today's video and creating an absolutely amazing game. But thank you to every single one of you watching right now, because truly without all of you guys, I wouldn't get opportunities like this. And now let's jump into today's case. Tiffany Lucas was born on the 2nd of October 1991, making her a Libran, and we do not claim her. And she grew up in Chicago before moving to Shepherdsville, Kentucky, where the rest of today's case takes place. And there isn't much information about Tiffany's childhood. It is said that she had a troubled childhood, but exactly what happened, we do not know. So we start to know a bit more about Tiffany when she enters her 20s. And she's currently in her late 20s, and she has 2 sons, a boy named Jaden Howard, who was born in 2014, and then her youngest son, a boy named Maurice Baker Jr., who was born in 2016. And Tiffany's 2 boys were her absolute world. She was currently a single mom. Both of her boys were born to different fathers. Tiffany hadn't stayed with either father. And Jaden and Maurice were described as the 2 sweetest angels on this earth. They were both incredibly polite. They always had smiles on their faces. They were just so full of happiness, life, energy. They truly did seem like happy children. Little Maurice had the nickname of peanut. He was known to love animals, riding his bike, just love being outdoors and going on adventures. And Jaden, who was a couple of years older, he was said to be very protective of his younger brother. He loved playing video games, playing the drums, and going on vacation with his family. And Tiffany would post on Facebook in particular a lot. Like, Facebook was her main social media. And on Facebook, whenever she would post photos of her life, of her sons, she would make out that she had the most perfect life imaginable. And she became known as a wannabe influencer. It is very obvious from the things that she was posting that she wanted to be an influencer. She was constantly posting things about like, oh, use my coupon code for blah, blah, blah.
What's up, y'all? We're out here swimming, me and the kids.
There was even one time where she got a HelloFresh box and she was promoting HelloFresh. I don't know if HelloFresh was sponsoring her. I don't think they were, but I think she was just promoting a code.
So we checked the doorstep and this was added. I ordered online and I don't know if anyone else has tried this. Hello, Delicious Meals. But it literally sent me 3 meals for free, okay?
And also the kinds of things that she would post as well. Like, she would always post her outfit of the day, her makeup, constantly posting selfies. And her captions would say things like, I level up every time God says so. Self-love, self-worth, self-respect. Sneak peek. Excuse me, honey, but no one's in my lane. Bad little vibe. I came from nothing. I could never lose. Rich bitch vibes. Simply the best, better than the rest. Be yourself, there's no one better. And she would share pictures of herself with designer handbags, stood with expensive cars, which I don't know if they're her cars or someone that she knows, I just don't know. Her being in workout gear, that was definitely her focus, like fitness and health. It seems as well that Tiffany was trying to get into the modeling business. She shared posts asking for people to come and see her first runway show. On top of this, she also appeared on a local news TV station promoting her new business that she had just opened, which was a convenience store which she called Miss Tiff's.
A lot of people don't make their way down here, but if there's a Walmart, you come out of the woodworks for Walmart. So probably would have brought a lot of people to, stop and check us out.
And she was just portraying the lifestyle that she was like an entrepreneur, that she was living the best life possible. She was definitely portraying this life of luxury, especially with all of the designer clothes and the expensive cars and stuff. So on top of all of this like wannabe influencer stuff that she was posting, another thing that was a main focus of her social media was portraying herself to be the best mom on planet Earth. She would heavily edit her photos of herself with her 2 boys with captions, quote, my whole entire world and heart, don't know what I would do without them. My lifeline, my heartbeat, my everything. On Mother's Day, she wrote, every day is Mother's Day in my world. On Valentine's Day, she wrote, I love my babies every day of the year. I will always use any excuse to celebrate them and show them how special they are. She also wrote, I don't think I would know how to smile, love, or survive if it wasn't for them. Even on our bad days, they shower me with an abundance of love. Always together, never apart. 3 souls, 1 heart. And she would post a lot about her children. I have gone through her whole Facebook account, which is still public, by the way. It's still up. So if you want to go and check it out for yourself, go ahead if you want to. But she would post a lot about her children with captions very similar to what I have just read out. And it is perfectly fine to say these things about your children, to shower them with love and affection and attention. However, the point I'm trying to make here is that you never know what actually goes on behind closed doors. Because if you just went to Facebook and you looked through her posts and you didn't know what happens in this case, you would think, oh my God, Tiffany really loves and adores her children. She puts them first. They are her whole world. But that is not the case. That is not the truth and the reality of Tiffany as a mother with her 2 children, Jaden and Maurice. Because what goes on to happen in this case is so chilling when you compare what she is posting on Facebook. Because behind all of these smiley pictures on social media, it was all fake. It was nothing more than an act. Tiffany tried incredibly hard to portray this certain image of herself that she wanted everyone else to see. However, in reality, she had this side of her that no one knew how to deal with. She would be very cold and callous and aggressive. She would be someone that you didn't quite know, like, where you stood with them. You didn't quite know what mood they were in, and they could flip in a split second. It would be like walking on eggshells around her, which is not a very good environment to raise children in. But she also tried her hardest to isolate her two boys from the extended family. And this was especially true when it came to the two fathers of the two boys. Tiffany would do everything in her power to keep her sons away from their fathers. She would ignore their phone calls, never allow them to visit. And obviously, some cases, there can be legitimate reasons to try and keep a parent away from children. But that was not the case in today's situation. Jaden's father and Maurice's father, they were good parents. They were kind, caring, wanted the best for their sons, wanted to be in their sons' lives. But Tiffany, for some reasons we don't know, she wanted to keep her two boys completely isolated from everyone. She was incredibly selfish. She didn't care that it was beneficial for her sons to have a relationship with their fathers or extended family. She just had this massive ego and she wanted everything to be about her. But things would only get worse from here because Tiffany developed a serious drug addiction. It was actually something that she had been struggling with on and off for quite a while. Many years previous, she had been prescribed opioids for a dental issue. However, when that prescription ran out, Tiffany realized that she was now addicted to opioids. And she began trying to source those opioids from the streets. And it just snowballed from there. Her addiction got worse and worse. But then she found out that she was pregnant for the first time and she did clean herself up. She was also completely clean for her second pregnancy. But now that her children were older, Tiffany relapsed. She fell back into the same cycle and she was now taking meth and fentanyl. And things just continue now to get worse and worse in Tiffany's life. Tiffany first lost her business, which was the convenience store Miss Tiff's. She then started to have problems with her landlord. She was struggling to pay rent. It is believed, not confirmed, but it is believed that she started escorting and sex work on the side to make some extra money. And then Tiffany started getting into trouble with the law. She was convicted of receiving stolen property and she had other various minor convictions. And then a few months later, Tiffany was charged with possession of a controlled substance. And because of this, her two boys were taken away from her. And Tiffany was sent to prison for 1 month. So things really are not looking great for Tiffany in her life. Not that you would know that from her social media posts. So no, everything is still hunky-dory. Tiffany really was still trying to portray on social media that she had this perfect life. But of course, people in her life, people that were around her, knew the truth. So Tiffany, she's in prison for a month. When she gets out of prison, she does get her boys back and she tries to start her life over. But then a couple of tragedies strike at the same time. First, Tiffany's dad, John, passed away. And this was devastating news to Tiffany because she was so close with her dad. She would share pictures of the two of them all over social media. And then just a few months later, this is when Jaden's dad, which is Tiffany's first son, a man named Darrell Howard, was murdered in cold blood. And we don't know much about the murder. All we know is that Darrell was apparently taken from his home and shot. And I don't know how true this next point is, but I did read that Jaden was actually visiting his dad on the one occasion that he actually was allowed to see his dad. Jaden possibly was there when his dad was taken, possibly murdered in front of him. But again, I cannot confirm that. But oh my God, if Jaden was even there in the home when his dad was taken, how traumatic must that have been on top of losing his dad? That would have been an unimaginably tough time for Jaden, as well as grieving for him. So after these two tragedies, this is when Tiffany's behavior starts to become more and more erratic. She was now isolating her two boys even more, like completely keeping everyone away from them, the extended family, which I'm sorry is not okay. It's not okay anyway, but Jaden has just lost his father. Keeping him isolated from his family, from his father's family, is not okay. And also, you would think that her youngest son, Maurice, his father is still alive. You would think that Tiffany, after Jaden losing his father, you would think that she would want Maurice to spend as much time as possible with his father. But no, that was not the case. Whenever Maurice Sr. would come around to the home asking to see his son, Tiffany would point blank refuse to even open the door. She stopped receiving his calls, and she wouldn't even let Maurice Sr. speak to his son. Maurice Sr. was now in another relationship with another woman who did become Maurice's stepmom, and she really cared for Maurice as well. They would throw Maurice Jr. birthday parties, but he was never allowed to go. They would also buy gifts for Maurice, and Tiffany would never allow her son to receive them. In fact, it was around this time when Tiffany started withholding Christmas presents from her own sons herself. And I don't know what her angle is here. She would withhold their Christmas presents and wouldn't give them to her sons until Valentine's Day, which just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you do that? Why would you buy children presents and taunt them with presents? Like, oh, look at all these presents for Christmas that I've bought you. But then she wouldn't allow her sons to have the presents until Valentine's Day. That just really doesn't make sense. It's just spiteful. And it wasn't just Maurice's extended family that were having a hard time seeing Maurice. Tiffany was also keeping Jaden away from his family as well. Now you got to realize Jaden has just lost his father, and Tiffany was preventing his paternal grandmother from seeing him. And it's like, why? Why are you stopping Jaden from seeing his paternal grandmother right after he's lost his father? And I just want to point out again that all of these people, the paternal grandmother, all of Jaden's extended family, all of Maurice's family, Maurice's father, they're good people. They cared about these two little boys. They only wanted the best for them. There is no reason under the sun that Tiffany should even be keeping those boys away from their family. And this must have been incredibly confusing to the two boys. I mean, why were they being kept from their family? Also incredibly traumatic, incredibly lonely as well. Can you imagine what is going through their minds? They probably think that their extended family doesn't love them. And whilst all of this is going on, Tiffany's drug usage is getting worse and worse. She is consuming more and more drugs every day. Drugs are now her priority. She's now completely neglecting her two boys. And it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like she clearly doesn't care about her two boys, so why not allow them to go and stay with Maurice's father or Jaden's family? Like, why not just let the boys go? Because she would leave the two boys at home for extended periods of time. And I want to point out here that Jaden is only 9 years old and Maurice is only 6. They are far too young to be left alone. But Tiffany doesn't care about these two children. She would just go out and about trying to get her fix. She would also leave her two boys in a locked car whilst she went out and ran errands. And then she was also completely neglecting the house, so the house started to become incredibly filthy. The extended family could literally see with their own eyes that she was neglecting the two boys. The environment and the house, it was not hygienic. It was not appropriate for these two boys to be living in there. And also the fact that she would just leave them on their own. And the family did try and do something about it. The family went to CPS multiple times to report Tiffany and what she was doing. They literally were begging for something to be done. I mean, most of all, they wanted the boys taken out of Tiffany's care. But at the very least, they wanted someone from CPS to be visiting the home regularly, to be keeping an eye on things. They just wanted something. They wanted the bare minimum. But for reasons not known, nothing was ever done. And now we get to the end of October 2023, and we are just weeks away from the tragic events of today's case. And this is where things now take a very drastic turn. Because Tiffany is still posting on social media that she has this perfect life, that she's the best mom in the world. And she shared a video of Jaden and Maurice at a painting workshop.
Boys! Peanut! What?
She also shared pictures and videos of the three of them going out for Halloween. They were all dressed in Star Wars themed costumes. Tiffany was Princess Leia. And then the two boys were the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. And you can see from the images, from the videos, Tiffany is really trying to portray that she's this caring, attentive mom. But something that I also noticed is that she was definitely making herself the center of attention of these videos. Like when they're at the painting workshop, she makes sure that she shows herself first, then she hands to her two boys, and then she makes sure that she's back on screen. And pretty much the same thing happened in the Halloween video. She was definitely the center of attention, which was what she was like. Her two boys were her accessories. They were just props for her social media posts, and it was really, really obvious with the Halloween videos that she was posting. Around the same time as well, Tiffany had been offered a new job at a law firm. She would be roughly making about $30 an hour, and this could really have helped turn Tiffany and the two boys' lives around. And Tiffany seemed to realize this. She seemed to realize that she needed to try her hardest to turn her life around, to accept this job, to get clean off drugs, and she needed to start putting her family first. So she started lowering her daily dosage of drugs. She started slowly weaning herself off. It seemed like Tiffany was starting to be on a good path, and she was definitely doing the right thing of slowly weaning herself off drugs. However, something changed. I don't know what, but all of a sudden, Tiffany decided to go cold turkey. Instead of lowering her dosage now, she just stopped taking drugs. And because she was taking so much drugs before, this was not a good idea. Because by taking all of the fentanyl out of her system so quickly, things would now go downhill incredibly quickly. And this would now lead to the devastating consequences of today's case. Because after going cold turkey, completely quitting drugs, Tiffany started now having delusions. On the 5th of November, Tiffany travelled to see her aunt and her grandmother. And whilst she was there, she started telling them that she had been chosen for a higher purpose, that God was speaking directly to her. And all of this was very out of character for Tiffany. She also started to say that she could see scripture written in the bark of trees. She tried to point it out to her aunt and her grandmother. She would say, "Look, can you not see the Bible verses written into this tree?" And her aunt and her grandmother were just like, "No." And Tiffany was like, "What do you mean? No, can you not see it? It's right there in front of your face." She was also saying that she could see scripture written in the air, as well as angels floating in the sky. And she would take out her phone to take photos of these apparent angels that she could see floating in the sky, but she was actually just taking pictures of the sky. And she would send these photos of the angels that she had taken, and she would send them to her friends and family, and she would say, "Can you not see all of the angels around us? Can you not see this? And can you not see that? It's all real. I have been chosen by them." So on top of these religious delusions that she is having, Tiffany also started to become incredibly paranoid. Tiffany started to believe that there was all of these mysterious, shady figures and people watching her. And these mysterious people were out to get both her and her two sons. She became convinced that herself and her two boys were being targeted by a conspiracy unknown by powerful people. She became convinced that this group of powerful people were stalking her family. Tiffany became convinced that her two sons, her entire world, they were going to be dragged from her arms, abducted, tortured, raped, and then sold. Tiffany went to visit her aunt and her grandmother for a second time. However, this time she became convinced that the police were now following her. And I don't know if she thought that the police were in this kind of conspiracy, that they were in this powerful group, I don't know. But Tiffany told her aunt and her grandmother that on the drive over to their home, she had to throw her cell phone out of the window along with all of her son's portable video consoles because her family were being tracked and monitored through those devices. And I assume this is how she thought the police were following her to her aunt and her grandmother's home, but they weren't following her. I just want to make that clear. And this is when Tiffany became incredibly paranoid about devices, about cell phones, about her TV, about her Wi-Fi, and she thought that she was being controlled and manipulated through these devices. She thought that it was messing with her brain chemistry, that it was also controlling her kids. She also believed that Facebook was manipulating her, that the Facebook algorithm was an evil monster manipulating her to do terrible things. I mean, obviously a lot can be said for Facebook's algorithm. But what Tiffany was claiming and what she was saying, she was delusional, she was paranoid, she was taking everything to the extreme. Another thing is that she thought that her sons were brainwashed by their PlayStation, that it was causing her sons to act in strange ways. She now really let the house fall into disrepair. It was incredibly filthy, bills stopped being paid, she got an eviction notice from her landlord. The electricity was also shut off, which Tiffany was actually happy about because that meant that the boys could no longer use their devices because obviously the devices are monitoring everything and tracking them and manipulating them. And then a few days later, Tiffany burst into a Family Dollar store demanding that the owner allow her to use their cell phone. Tiffany said that she had been chased down the road by a strange figure and that she needed help straight away. She had also been texting her grandmother the most random things. She had been saying, it's Tiff, call 911 immediately, which doesn't make sense at all because she clearly has a mobile phone in her hand. Why isn't she just calling 911 herself? And then just a couple of days later, this is when Tiffany actually started to hang out with real dodgy, shady people. And this is when she convinced one of the people, the dodgy people that she was hanging out with, to allow her to borrow a gun. And at this point, Jaden and Maurice's extended family were incredibly concerned about the two boys. Tiffany just seemed to be completely losing it, even more than usual, and her behavior was just so erratic. And once again, both Jaden and Maurice's family were reaching out to authorities, to the right people, begging for help, like CPS. They didn't even care about their differences with Tiffany. All they cared about were the two boys, their safety. They even tried to offer Tiffany support. They were trying to do everything in their power just to make sure that these two boys were safe. But as usual, Tiffany just ignored them, refused to speak to them, even though they are literally just offering to help her. And even when the family did go to CPS, again, nothing was done. The extended family of Maurice and Jaden, they really did try everything in their power to help and save these two boys. But no one did anything. No one listened to them. And now, sadly, we get to the tragic events of today's case. Because on the 7th of November, 2023, Tiffany just seemed to completely lose it. On the morning of this day, you can see from neighbors' cameras that Tiffany's dog seems to have escaped. And Tiffany was on the lawn of the neighbors trying to get her dog back. She then started to say to the neighbor in a very panicked voice, I need you. I need you. And the neighbor was like, you need me? Like, what do you mean? That would be a very strange thing to say to a neighbor because I don't even think they were that close. And Tiffany replied, I need an anchor, a good friend. I need a good person in my life. God is talking to me. And what is just really frustrating, Tiffany, is that you have that. You have both Maurice and Jaden's family who are good people, who are going to be there for you and the two boys, but you wouldn't let them. She then went on to say, it's an issue. I need you. I need you to come clean my house and sort my kids out. She then started saying, I just need to be a mother. I just need to be a mother. I need to have good people around me. I need family. I need help. And she just kept repeating herself over and over again until very abruptly, Tiffany just storms off. And then later on that day, after all of this bizarre interactions with the neighbor, Tiffany goes out with her two boys and she ends up in a Waffle House. And you can see all of this footage on CCTV. Once again, Tiffany is acting very strange. The waiter that was working there that day said that Tiffany just seemed like a deer in headlights. When they asked her questions, she just didn't respond. It seems like she just wasn't there, like she didn't quite know where she was. However, the two children at this point, they seem completely fine. Things seem normal with the two boys. They seem happy. But then all of a sudden, Tiffany just wraps her arms around Maurice, like randomly, just out of the blue. And apparently she did this because she heard someone in the Waffle House call out Maurice's full name. And obviously we know she's suffering with paranoia right now. She thinks that these mystery, strange, powerful people are after her and her two sons. So it seems like she threw her arms around Maurice because she thought that there was a threat and she wanted to protect her son. She then saw a waitress with the name tag Amber, because that's obviously her name, and Tiffany thought that this was a sign, that it actually meant that there was an Amber Alert, and it meant that someone was on their way to harm her children. And for the rest of the time in that Waffle House, Tiffany just kept looking over her shoulder, not really paying attention to anything that the waiters were saying to her, not really paying attention to her children, because she constantly thought that someone was going to get her children. The waiters actually commented that she looked like she was on the run from somebody, and she was just not acting normally. She was shaking, she was crying. She could barely say 2 words to the waiter. She refused to eat any food. And then eventually she leaves the Waffle House. She goes home and she refuses to let the boys out of the house for the rest of the day. The family stay inside this home and it's all locked up. And then by the time we get to the next day, which is November 8th, this is when everything would now go horribly wrong. Because on the morning of the 8th of November, Tiffany didn't allow her 2 boys to go to school. She wanted them all to stick together. She did not trust letting her 2 boys out into the world. And whilst the 2 boys were at home, neighbours saw them in the morning outside on the front lawn just playing, just being normal children. They seemed perfectly happy. Everything seemed normal. However, Tiffany was the complete opposite. She was also outside of the front of the house, but she was frantically scrubbing at some carpet. She just kept cleaning the same space, like same piece of carpet over and over again. It's almost like she was on autopilot. It's almost like she didn't quite know what she was doing. And then in the middle of Tiffany cleaning this piece of carpet, she started to hear sirens in the background. And she also took this as a sign. She believed that someone was going to harm her 2 boys. So she took the 2 boys inside. She locked the front door. She wanted to get them to safety. But this is when the unthinkable happens. Because moments later, at around 11 a.m., this is when neighbours heard 4 loud gunshots ring out. And neighbours started panicking, thinking, what is going on? And this is when Tiffany comes running out of the house. She goes running over to a neighbour's home, and that neighbour is not home. And you can see all of this on security cameras. And she starts screaming for help. She is crying, she is shaking. And at this exact moment, this is when the neighbour arrives home in their car and pulls onto the driveway. And as soon as Tiffany sees the neighbour's car, she collapses onto the ground. The neighbour rushes over to Tiffany and asks her if she's okay. And this is when Tiffany started shouting, "My kids are dying. My kids are dying." And the neighbour is freaking out now. They are panicking. They were like, "What do you mean your kids are dying? What can I do? What has happened?" So the neighbour rushes over to Tiffany's home, bursts inside, runs into the kids' bedroom to try and determine what has actually gone on. But when they entered the kids' bedroom, they were confronted with an absolute nightmare, because this neighbour found both Jaden and Maurice lying on their beds and a gun lay next to them, and they were both covered in their own blood. And the neighbour feared the worst. But when they went over and got closer to the boys, they realised that the 2 boys were still alive. They were still breathing. The neighbour immediately dials 911, and you can hear snippets of this call.
"We just found our neighbor, the woman, their mom, just freaking out in my yard."
Okay, and how old is he?
Oh my God, he's I don't know, he's probably 6. There's blood on the bed. There's a gun. Oh my God.
Was he shot?
The neighbour tells the dispatcher what they have found, that they have found 2 boys lying covered in their own blood in their own beds. A gun is next to them, but he can't find any gunshot wounds. And at the same time, another 911 call is placed by another neighbour. And on this 911 call, you can actually hear Tiffany in the background screaming and crying.
I would say in her early 30s. And now she's screaming that the kids are dying. Stay here.
Meanwhile, the neighbour that is inside the house with the 2 boys is told to stay put. Help is on the way, and the neighbour is guided through emergency treatment to try and help the boys. And the neighbour was so calm, so brave to try and do this. And within no time, paramedics arrive. Jaden and Maurice are put straight into an ambulance. They are rushed to the hospital. They went straight into surgery. But tragically, and it absolutely breaks my heart to say this, but nothing could be done. It was too late, and the 2 boys succumbed to their injuries. And this is when 9-year-old Jaden and 6-year-old Maurice were pronounced dead, which is just absolutely devastating that these 2 young boys needlessly lost their lives. They were just so young. They were such happy children. They had their whole lives ahead of them. But meanwhile, back at the house, it's obviously now a crime scene. Police arrive and they immediately interview the neighbour that tried to save the two boys. And they ask the neighbour what they think happened. And the neighbour gives them an immediate answer. And he believes that it was the mother, Tiffany. The police do arrest Tiffany straight away. She was not taken to the hospital to be with her boys. Instead, she was immediately taken down to the police station to be questioned, and police immediately start asking her what the hell happened and what the hell is going on. How did these two boys end up being shot? And did Tiffany mean to harm them?
Who ain't right?
People are not right. They're preying on children. It's just not right.
And this is when Tiffany looks at the detectives in the eye and just says 4 words which are so chilling. She says, "It was an accident." So Tiffany had confessed to being responsible. She was taken into another room where she was questioned further. And you can see some of this interview footage online. And Tiffany does just seem completely out of it. She is struggling to sit upright. She is swaying. And all of a sudden, she actually collapses and bangs her head off of the table. And then Tiffany starts saying, "I know I look crazy, but I'm not crazy. I love my children. I love my boys so much. I wouldn't hurt them."
Because I know I look crazy, but I'm not crazy.
I don't think you look crazy.
I love my children.
You tell me a little bit about you. Okay.
I love my children. I love my boys so much.
She also was complaining about the detective's phone ringing all of the time. She thinks that this is part of the big conspiracy.
See, as soon as you walked in, why is it doing that?
My phone.
As soon as you walk in the door? That's weird, right?
It's weird.
It's weird. As soon as people walk, sounds, that's not right.
No.
It's not right. See?
Not for right now. Okay.
Every time I say something, your phone's going off.
And she just truly is not making any sense. And then she starts to go on about all of these conspiracy theories. She says that she was letting her kids play on video games, but she wasn't really focusing on them that much. And the video games and YouTube, it was completely messing up her children's brains.
I wouldn't have hurt them, but I just feel like I felt back and I didn't. I was letting them play the video games, and I wasn't like focusing how I was supposed to, you know. And they get that video game and the YouTube and the kids, it just messes their minds up to where people can manipulate their parents or do whatever they want.
She then said that she felt like someone had put something on her house or on Tiffany herself that just didn't feel right. I think she's insinuating that someone's like put a curse on her house or on her, or like just manipulating her and her house and what is going on. Again, she reiterated how much she loves her children. She then starts crying.
And I feel like someone put something upon my house or me or something. Like, I just don't feel right. I'm not, like, I don't do this. I love my kids.
She also makes comments such as, "I'm in such a bad spot. I would never do anything like this unless someone manipulated me." She then goes on to talk about the fact that she has been manipulated in various different ways. That Facebook was manipulating her, that her Wi-Fi had been manipulating her. And she said that this whole thing was just a big accident. That someone had given her a gun and manipulated her into shooting and killing her own children, and that it was never intentional. And I'm going to be completely honest here, she's just not making any sense. The detective had a very difficult time even getting a straight answer out of her. And then out of nowhere, Tiffany just starts saying that she shot both of her children in the head. She also said that she then turned the gun on herself and tried to take her own life. Tiffany is now claiming that she did not mean to survive this, that she was supposed to take her own life in the exact same way that she took her children's lives. But she claims that when she turned the gun on herself, the gun jammed and she couldn't get it to fire. She then said that she somehow managed to shoot herself in the ear. Again, you can see all of this interview footage.
I shot myself in the head.
You what?
Shot myself in my ear.
You shot yourself in the ear?
But detectives could not find a single injury on her. she did not shoot herself in the ear. There was no evidence that she ever turned the gun on herself.
What's here? I don't see anything.
And it's really hard to distinguish between Tiffany and her paranoid delusions and what are just lies. I think it's quite clear that she is suffering. Maybe it is because she went cold turkey from the drugs. But a lot of things just don't add up. A lot of things don't even add up to her paranoid delusions. And it does just seem that Tiffany is coming out with one lie after another to try and excuse what she has done. The detectives then ended the interview. Tiffany was taken into custody. She was charged with murder and her bail was set at $2 million. And the investigation into the horrific deaths of Jaden and Maurice continued. The detectives soon found doorbell footage that showed that Tiffany was the only person to enter the home. She was the only one going in and out of the house that day. No one else had the opportunity to carry out these murders. Tiffany was clearly the only person behind this. And as the investigation progressed, Tiffany decided to enter a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. I think she was determined to get a lighter sentence out of this. Her defense team tried to claim that her actions were due to the fact that Tiffany completely stopped taking her drugs and that she had suffered from an opioid-induced psychotic disorder brought on by withdrawals. However, Jaden and Maurice's family were having none of this. They were distraught by what Tiffany had done, and they wanted her to receive the death penalty as punishment. But in the end, Tiffany made a plea deal with the prosecution where she pled guilty to her crimes, and her sentence was 2 life sentences. And during the sentences, many members of Jaden and Maurice's family spoke out, which included Maurice's father, Jaden's stepmom, one of the boys' grandmothers, aunts. Jaden's older half-brother also spoke about his heartbreak over what has happened, about how he wishes things could be different and how he wishes that he could have saved his younger brother. And in the aftermath, a funeral was arranged, which was attended by over 200 people. And I just want to end this video remembering the 2 boys, Maurice and Jaden. Jaden and Maurice were described as being just the sweetest little boys. They were both incredibly polite, always had a smile on their face, and they were just so full of happiness, life, and energy. Little Maurice, also known as Peanut, loved animals, riding his bike, playing outside, going on adventures. And Jaden loved video games, playing the drums, going on vacations with his family. He was also incredibly protective of his younger brother Maurice. And they were both just described as being incredibly special. They were so loved by their wider family around them, and they were taken far, far too soon. They were just 9 and 6 years old. And I just want to wish all of Jaden and Maurice's family the best. I just hope you're all doing okay. This case is absolutely heartbreaking, and it needlessly happened as well, because there were so many people that cared about these 2 boys that were trying to help, but no one helped them. CPS just completely ignored everybody. And it is just so frustrating that if those 2 boys were just taken out of Tiffany's care, none of this would have happened. If CPS had just intervened, this wouldn't have happened. And Maurice and Jaden, they should still be here today. They should still be living their lives, being the happy, sweet boys that they are, and they should have their whole future ahead of them. And it is just devastating that they're not. So that brings us to the end of today's case. As always, let me know your thoughts, theories, and opinions. And don't forget to leave me your case suggestions in the comments down below, because I always want to know what you want to hear next. Thank you again to Love and Pies for sponsoring today's video, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.